Okay, here we are on step 0. The name on the Gantt chart is mental health. I call it get your shit together. Okay. This is a very fundamental principle of everything I teach. If you don't like yourself, nothing good is going to happen. So first we have to get our shit together. Let me share my screen so you can see what we're looking at here on the Gantt chart. Hopefully you can see my cursor. I'm over here wiggling it on mental health. The man who made this chart, Vince, said it's going to take you 520 days to get your shit together. I'd agree with that completely. Self-esteem, 520 days, I agree. But this is an ongoing project for the rest of your life to keep your self-esteem high. The third task is called living consciously. He says that'll take you 60 days. Living consciously. Know what you know, see what you see. He says that'll take you 30 days. Hearing what is said between the lines. He says that'll take you another 30 days, but you start that task after you get to the point where you know what you know and you see what you see. The books recommended for that are 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem and Games People Play. I trained with Nathaniel Brennan. He's the father of self-esteem, and his opinion is, and changed the world, is that self-esteem is at the bottom of every psychological problem. Because if you don't like yourself, women aren't going to like you. You've heard that from your grandmother and other people. First, you got to like yourself, and that's true. Living Consciously is a whole chapter in the book, 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, but I really don't like the book at all. It's just a mess. There is no summary book, but there is a 2 CD set, and someone rewrote the entire book. If you get the audio version, it's just Brandon reading the book to you. It's really fucking boring. Very difficult to understand because he insists on trying to write like a PhD because he's mostly interested in impressing other psychologists on how brilliant he is. Utter nonsense. The point is to communicate. Anyway, he got so much feedback about the book being unintelligible that he had paid somebody to rewrite it, and then he read the rewrite. It's half the length, and it gets right to the point, and it's easy to understand. Very difficult to find. We have a copy there. You have to be a member of the restricted list to listen to that. If you don't want to join the restricted list, try on your own and see if you can find that. It makes this business up here of living consciously much easier. Know what you know, see what you see, hear what is being said between the lines. I use a different book for that. Yes, that's Games People Play. We mentioned that yesterday. And Body Language Secrets. Body Language Secrets is probably even more important for that. When her body's saying one thing and her words are saying something else, you know the real message is in the body language. Let's go on a little evolutionary trip here for a second. Human beings did not develop the ability to talk until 40,000 years ago. Something changed in the FOXP23 gene. I don't know what the fuck that means. I just quoted. The idea is that there was a mutation and we were able to speak because of a change in our throat here. We're pre-verbal. We think in images before we speak, before we think in words. So from the Big Bang all the way up until 40,000 years ago, we got along without being able to speak. So we were able to understand each other without words. And it's all in the body language. So get the body language book, read it, understand it, and get good at it because you can read what she's really saying between the lines. Do you remember the quote that my friend told me was, when a woman says yes, she means maybe. When she says no, she means maybe. And when she says maybe, she means no. I want you to be able to read between the lines. The body language will tell you that quicker than anything. And what you feel. When she says a lie to you, you'll feel it if you're paying attention. You got to trust your emotions, guys. Your emotions are not going to lie to you. They were there way before you learned how to talk, way before you learned how to think. Your emotions were telling you, run! It's survival. Your emotions are your survival skills. So getting angry is I can't get the lid off this jar, you get angry. Now you have enough adrenaline, you get the damn lid off. It's to help you survive. Your emotions are there to help you survive, and they tell you the truth. You can't deceive yourself by generating a false emotion. Your emotions just calculate what's out there and tell you the answer. So trust your emotions. Now, it's hard to do because in our culture, men are talking, well, you have to know everything. You have to think, be logical and rational. Bullshit. Before macho nonsense, we didn't do any of that. Whatever we was, okay? All right, where was that? Let's go back to share the screen and we'll see where we were on the mental health. Okay, we were here on Games People Play. You can still get that book. But I do remember this does get your head out of your ass as far as being able to realize other things are going on here than what it looks like. Okay, here's a biggie, self-acceptance. Self-acceptance, one of the biggest hurdles you have to overcome because you were raised by parents just like the rest of us. And you're not good enough by their standards. You have to measure up to their standards. And it's hard to accept yourself when they don't think you're good enough. And they communicate to you you're not good enough. So you were born perfectly fine. And your parents fuck it up, number one. The school teachers and preachers fuck it up, number two. When you get to college, you got these moronic professors who think they know something, they know nothing. And finally, you got politicians telling you what's right and what's wrong. Horse shit. Assert yourself. Figure out what's right and wrong for you and live by those rules. Okay, self-acceptance. I am what I am. The way I am is good enough. There can be areas of yourself that you don't like and you want to change, that's fine. But overall, you accept yourself. That sounds simple, easy to say words, very difficult for most people to do. That's what therapists do for a living. We help you accept yourself. Your parents didn't accept you. There was always something wrong with you. Learning from fuck-ups, lowering and broadening standards. Be your own best friend. Non-uniqueness in the universe. Believe you deserve to be with a 21-year-old 9.0 or better. Learning from fuck-ups. He says that'll take you 90 days. I don't agree with that. I think that'll take you for the rest of your life. Point is that you have to start doing it right now. Start learning from your fuck-ups now or you're never going to get this dating business down. You remember, we just went through Court Her, and there were 10 pages near the end of the chapter that were all fuck-ups. Okay? I put them in there so you don't have to fuck up the same way I did. You're going to fuck up, and you're going to learn from it, but they're going to be your fuck-ups. Please, don't do the same thing I did. Make your own mistakes. Lowering and broadening your standards. That'll take 90 days, he said. In other words, if you're right now and you're not dating and you think you deserve to go out with a 10, you're smoking the wrong kind of weed, okay? Because you're not going to go out with a 10. The 10s get to choose from guys who own Maseratis and have their own private fucking jets, okay? That's what 10s get to choose from. Let's get real. Lowering and broadening standards, 60 days is what he said it takes. I think that's true. It took me about, I would say, let's see, I gave up on women that were like over 30 quickly, maybe within 2 months after I got divorced. Because this was back in the height of the feminist wacko shit in the early 80s. And it was always men's fault, and fuck that. You know, that makes your dick softer than anything on the planet, at least in my experience. So I decided I wanted to go out with young women that didn't have those fucking problems. And I always liked young women. I started flirting with them at Bechtel. And I was even fucking a couple of them when I was married, but turns out when you're not married, it's a whole different ball game. It's all in date young women. So lowering and broadening your standards. Okay, so the first girl I went out with, after I got divorced was a neighbor about 3 houses down. I used to have these big ass house parties with a lot of people coming and going all over the front yard and in the backyard. And she just wandered in one night and introduced herself, and we hit it right off. But I was so horny, lonely, and desperate, I was fine. And she was, I was 42 and she was 35. But she was like an independent person. She was a emergency room nurse at Presbyterian Hospital, so she had her own life. She wasn't married, never been married. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, she was a good 6, maybe 6.5. Very friendly, very nice, outgoing, smart. We had a good time. I thought I should go out with at least somebody as pretty as my wife. Well, it turns out that's not going to happen. As young as my wife, that's not going to happen. You got to start at the bottom of the beauty scale and the top of the age ladder. Now, that's really lowering and broadening your standards, but I don't say you need to go down to 1s and 2s unless you have no experience. And then if you have no experience, definitely you got to go down to 1s and 2s. You got to start somewhere. You've heard that many times during these videos. Now, lowering and broadening your standards. When you go on the internet and you go dating with these women, you're not going to have very much to choose from because they can't get a date or they wouldn't be on the internet. That's before the new apps. I don't know how those work. We're going to do a special video with Sophie. She's 23 and she uses the apps all the time, and she's going to give us some hints on how to use them. I don't have any idea. But in the old days, when you got on eHarmony and Match.com, those women aren't very good looking, and if they're good looking, they're nuttier than a fucking fruitcake. So you have to lower your standards just to get on the internet, all right? And then remember, only one date at a time. Once you get used to women that aren't knockouts, if you were used to women who were knockouts, you'll get over it. As my friends in the Army used to say, they're all pink inside. That's true. They're all pink inside. And you've got to get going again or you're never going to get going. The name of the book is How to Be Your Own Best Friend. It was originally floated around in the psychological world about, I would say, 40 pages, a Xerox stapled together. Brandon had a copy. He had his secretary make copies for all his clients and all the interns. And finally, the two people that put it together decided, well, everybody likes this, maybe we should make a book. And it's still for sale. That was in the early 70s, and it's still selling like crazy on Amazon because it's such a good book. And the way you learn to like yourself is to treat yourself the way you treat your best friend. You don't give your best friend shit. What the fuck's the matter with you? Why didn't you go over and talk to her? We'd say you're a pussy. You don't talk to him like that. So don't talk to yourself like that. Okay, you're scared. So what? This is all new. Be nice to yourself. Be your own best friend. Learn all the little techniques in there are going to help you be nice to yourself. And when you start being nice to yourself, your self-esteem goes up. Self-esteem is fed by you doing things that you value and that you think take courage and smarts. If you do something, you accomplish something, you judge yourself as capable. If you try something risky and you still don't make it, you still judge yourself as courageous and brave for trying. So you learn to like yourself by doing things that you value and that you want to learn how to do. And if you fail, give yourself some slack. Be your own best friend. Now, when I say fail, I meant like, I don't want you to fail in the dating world. Don't fail there. If you do, you do. But the idea is that one success after another, and don't bite off a bigger chunk than you can chew. Be successful time after time after time after time. That's where confidence comes from. That's where your self-esteem goes up. And that's where your mental health, this whole topic we're talking about, improves immediately. As soon as you're capable and effective in the world, you feel strong and you feel capable and you feel attractive. And women find you attractive. If you like yourself and you're doing a good job by your own standards, women will like you. They won't like you unless you like yourself. Let's get that down forever.